Hello, today we're going to review the fundamental rules to obtain your Hazmat endorsement in Georgia. This state has specific requirements for professional drivers, so let's get prepared for you to pass that exam on the first try. Here are the key questions for the Georgia Hazmat practice test. Where must shipping papers be kept if the driver is not in the vehicle? On the driver's seat or in the door pouch? Emergency responders must be able to find these documents immediately if they arrive at an unattended vehicle during an incident. Let's continue. A vehicle placarded for hazardous materials must stop how far from a railroad track? 15 to 50 feet. You must stop, look, and listen, never shift gears while crossing the tracks to avoid stalling. Next question. When transporting chlorine in cargo tanks, what must you have in the vehicle? An approved gas mask. Chlorine is highly toxic. You must have an emergency kit and a gas mask that fits you properly to handle potential leaks. Let's move on. You must notify the National Response Center if a reportable quantity spill occurs within 12 hours. You should call as soon as possible. 12 hours is the absolute legal limit for reporting a significant discharge. Continuing. Which hazard class requires placards regardless of the amount being transported? Division 1.1 Explosives. As a Table 1 material, explosives of this grade are so dangerous they must always be identified, even for a single pound. Next point. How often must you check the tires on a placarded vehicle with dual tires? Every 2 hours or 100 miles. Frequent checks are required because a hot or flat tire on a hazmat load can quickly lead to a catastrophic fire. Let's keep going. If the trailer doors are hot, you should not open them because air may make the fire flare up. Opening the doors provides a sudden rush of oxygen that can turn a smoldering fire into an explosion of flames. Next question. What is the purpose of a uniform hazardous waste manifest? To track hazardous waste from generator to disposal. This document ensures cradle-to-grave accountability so that dangerous waste doesn't illegally. Let's continue. You should never smoke in how many feet of a placarded cargo tank of flammable liquid? 50 feet. Vapors can travel along the ground. 50 feet is the minimum safe buffer to prevent an accidental ignition. Next point. Who is responsible for certifying that the hazardous material is properly packaged and labeled? The shipper. The shipper must sign a declaration stating the load is prepared according to DOT regulations. Let's move on. What does it mean if a material is classified as forbidden? It must not be transported. Certain chemical combinations or unstable materials are considered too high risk for commercial highway transport. Continuing. If you are hauling 100 pounds of Division 4.3 materials, do you need to stop at railroad crossings? Yes. Division 4.3 dangerous when wet materials are Table 1 items and require a mandatory stop at all tracks. Next question. Where should the emergency response guide ERG be kept? Within reach of the driver at all times. In an emergency, you don't have time to search the sleeper berth. It must be right there with your shipping papers. Let's keep going. What color is the placard for an oxidizer, Class 5.1? Yellow. The bright yellow color warns responders that the cargo will provide oxygen to a fire, making it burn much more intensely. Next point. A hazard class name or ID number must not be used on shipping papers for non-hazardous materials. Mixing hazmat terminology with regular freight causes dangerous confusion during inspections or accidents. Let's continue. How many placards must be on a vehicle carrying a placarded load? 4. One on each side, the front and the rear. They must be kept clean and legible at all times. Next question. What are the 3 lists used to identify hazardous materials? Hazardous Materials Table, Appendix A and Appendix B. Appendix A lists reportable quantities, RQ, while Appendix B lists marine pollutants. Let's move on. What should you do if your vehicle is leaking hazmat and you are in a populated area? Move the vehicle as little as possible to a safe area. Your goal is to contain the leak and keep people away, not to drive through town spreading the material. Continuing. When can you leave a vehicle carrying Division 1.1 explosives unattended? Only in a designated safe haven. A safe haven is a government-approved area specifically for parking high-risk explosive loads. Next point. What is the identification number, UN or NUN number, used for? To identify the specific material for emergency responders. Responders use correct safety protocols in their response guides. Let's keep going. Which document lists the hazard class and ID number for every regulated material? The Hazardous Materials Table. This is the master list found in the Federal Regulations 49 CFR that governs all hazmat transport. Next question. If you discover a leaking package of hazardous materials, you should stop and call the carrier or authorities. Do not continue your route. A small leak can quickly become a major environmental or safety hazard. Let's continue. How must shipping papers for hazardous materials be marked? With an X or RQ in the HM column. This mark must be clearly visible so the driver and inspectors can instantly distinguish hazmat from regular cargo. Next point. What should you do if you are involved in a collision? Remove the explosives and place them 200 feet away before separating vehicles. This prevents a fire in one vehicle from immediately detonating the entire load of explosives. Let's move on. What hazard is indicated by a white placard with a skull and crossbones? Poison. This indicates a material that is toxic to humans, often including inhalation hazard. Warnings. Continuing. When transporting hazardous waste, what must you have to Uniform Hazardous Waste Manifest. This is the specific legal document required for moving waste products rather than new chemicals. Next question. What is the maximum distance you can park a placarded vehicle from a bridge or tunnel? 300 feet. Parking any closer puts critical infrastructure at risk if your load catches fire or leaks. Let's keep going. Who is responsible for placarding the vehicle? The driver. While the shipper provides the placards, it is the driver's legal responsibility to ensure they are correctly displayed before moving. Next point. If a shipping paper describes both hazardous and non-hazardous materials, how must the hazmat be listed? First or highlighted or marked with an X. The goal is to make the hazardous item stand out immediately to anyone reading the paperwork. Let's continue. Which class of hazardous material is most likely to produce a liquid? Class 3 liquids in a tank. A liquid inside a partially filled tank can push the truck forward or cause it to tip and turn. Next question. What must you do if your vehicle thumps or vibrates heavily? Pull over and check for a flat or loose tire. With hazmat, a vibrating tire often means it is overheating, which can lead to a fire if ignored. Let's move on. What does the RQ on a shipping paper stand for? Reportable quantity. This means the spill of this material in a certain amount must be reported to federal authorities. Continuing. When are you allowed to use a fire extinguisher on a hazmat fire? Only if you can do so without putting yourself in danger. Your life is worth more than the cargo. If the fire involves the hazmat itself, it's often too dangerous to fight. Next point. Which of these is a sign of a leaking tank? Wet spots around the dome cover or valves. Even minor sweating around a valve should be inspected before you depart. Let's keep going. What is a safe haven? A government-approved place to park explosives. These are usually gated areas to minimize the risk to the public. Next question. If you're carrying Class 1.1 explosives, where can you not park? Within 300 feet of a bridge or tunnel. You must also avoid parking near crowds, buildings, or open fires. Let's continue. What should you do if you're given a leaking package to load? Refuse the load. Once you sign for it and move it, the leak becomes your responsibility and a major legal liability. Next point. How many different hazard classes are defined by the dot? 9th. From Class 1 explosives to Class 9 miscellaneous, let's move on. What does a marine pollutant mark indicate? The material is harmful to the environment if spilled in water. This requires extra care when driving near lakes, rivers, or storm drains. Continuing. Which of these is prohibited when loading explosives? Using hooks or metal tools that could cause sparks. A single spark from a metal tool can ignite sensitive explosive materials. Next question. What should you use to warn other drivers if your vehicle breaks down at night? Use flares or any flame-producing signal around a hazmat vehicle. Let's keep going. What is the purpose of the segregation table? To show which materials cannot be loaded together. This chart is vital for preventing chemical reactions inside your trailer. Next point. When driving a placarded vehicle, you must check your tires every time the vehicle is parked. Routine checks at every stop help you catch potential tire failures before they start a fire. Let's continue. What part of the vehicle should you check for leaks during a pre-trip? All valves, pipes in the tank shell. A thorough inspection is the only way to ensure the integrity of your containment system. Next question. Which of these materials is an example of a Class 8 hazard? Battery acid. Class 8 covers corrosives, which can dissolve metal and cause severe chemical burns. Let's move on. If you have to transfer hazmat from one tanker to another on a public road, what is required? It must be an emergency. Routine transfers are not allowed on public roads. They must be done at a proper facility unless it is an emergency. Continuing. What must be on the shipping paper if the material is a poison inhalation hazard? The word poison inhalation hazard. Burning material creates a toxic cloud that can kill if breathed in. Next point. Why is it important to know the hazard class of your cargo? To know how to handle it safely and what placards to use. Each class has different rules for loading, parking, and emergency response. Let's keep going. What is a non-bulk